Okay guys, so here's what you're gonna have. You're gonna make sure that you have a cup of water, your palette. Make sure you have a mixing tray. Now, how do I keep this clean? Well, I blob all my big blobs of color, clean the brush in between so I can just start grabbing my colors without messing up my palette. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna start by drawing a circle. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Your circle does not have to be perfect, okay? If it's like an egg, whatever, that's fine. Then draw a table line behind it and then add a cast shadow. That's all you're drawing. Okay, let's zoom in so you can see what we have. You have a background, a table line, a sphere, a cast shadow. That's all you need. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix a gray. We're gonna block in our colors. So we're gonna have to mix gray, paint gray here, put a bright color here, just a hue like red or yellow or something. We're gonna have to mix a color, a nice, pretty color, mix it and put it on the table. Make sure you mix a lot of white with this one. And then you're gonna make a shadow. So the shadow has to be related to this table color. Okay, so let's get started. So you're gonna have a palette. How do you get the color out of the palette? Get a brush. If you get let's say you get a flat brush. Yeah, get a lot of white, right? So here I'm getting white. Just grab it. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe one more. Okay, 6, I lifted up 6 blobs of white, right? Then get as much white on the palette as you can. Then I have to thoroughly clean the brush. So swish it in water. You can use your paper towel to wipe some of the paint off, and then swish it in water again and squeeze the water out of it. Why do we squeeze the water out of it? Because we're doing acrylic and the paint's already running enough as it is, so you don't need to be adding water to it. Now I'm gonna get red because I want to make it gray. I'm gonna get some red, put it on my palette. Blob, 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 blob. About 5 blobs if you're using this little tiny flat brush. Then I need to clean it thoroughly, get the paint off of it, squeeze it dry. Make sure you get the paint off of it and then grab the green, okay? So you're gonna make gray by adding green with red. Now, we already have colors. Now, painting is, a big part of painting is being aware of what's on the brush. What's on the brush right now is a bunch of green, and I don't want a bunch of green on my brush, right? But I am just gonna make gray, so it's okay. So I'm gonna pull the green into the red. It looks kind of reddish, so I'm gonna pull a little more green, and I made my gray. Got it? I might need more red later if I paint my ball red. Now, you cannot see what color it is unless you grab some white. So I'm gonna grab some white, throw it in there, and it looks like a greenish gray. A greenish gray is okay. I'm gonna grab some more white, and I made my gray. Make sure you have enough gray to paint your background. Okay, now my paint brush is all blobbed up with too much paint. It's got green paint, it's got red paint and gray paint, so I'm gonna clean it before I start using it. If I wanted to paint the brush with this, the background with this one, I can, but the brush is kind of small. So I'm gonna put this in water. I'm gonna grab a little bit bigger brush. You can use your flat, your round, your filbert, whatever you want. Okay? Now the point of the brush, the tip of the brush is the business end for making sharp edges. The side of the brush is good for blending. In this case, we're not blending, we're just blocking in colors. So I can turn my drawing upside down. You're gonna find that the paper is very thirsty. So you're gonna have to keep loading up more and more paint to get the whole thing covered. So keep getting more paint. Just keep getting more paint until you have the whole thing finished. Now, what is on my brush is that gray color. So I need to rinse all the gray out of this brush before I get the next color. And this time I'm going to use a round brush just to show you, you can use different brushes for blocking in your colors. So be sure and try the different brushes so you can get familiar with them. So I'm going to get some more red. I'm glopping it on here. That orange that's underneath is already dried. So I'm adding some fresh red. I think I've got enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to block in my red color. My red seems to be a little transparent, so I might want to add a little white to it. So I'm going to pull in a little white. It's going to look pink today, but tomorrow I'll paint a layer of red on top. The pink will help it be more opaque, which is the opposite of transparent. So if it's kind of see-through, I guess you'd call it, or clear, then you might want to add a little white to it, and then we'll paint a layer of red on top. To make it a brighter red. Mixed into this, I'm gonna paint this whole back, the whole table with that light color. Make sure you get enough of your color. And don't worry if there's any variation, because we're gonna paint over it. Basically, we're laying down our color and sealing the paper at the same time. So here we go. Painting my table. Pay attention to the corners. You want to have straight corners when you do this. Actually, if you can actually use the red and the green to make kind of like a dark gray. But remember, there's white in it. So if it looks purplish, I can add a little bit of green, and until it looks more like a grayish bluish color. And then I'm going to use that to paint my shadow here. My shadow could fade out like out here, so if later on when I'm blending I could do that, but for now we're just blocking in our colors. Finish off this painting. Now I have my colors blocked in. I'm going to let it dry a little bit, and then I'm going to start blending.